So you're stuck at home and you've been telling yourself that you want to learn a new skill, something that you can monetize, something that can just improve the quality of you when you come out of this lockdown, right? Well, this is your video. Hey y'all, what's up? It's me, Miss Ruby. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first installment of my new video series. It's kind of like a collab between Self-Care Sunday and Storytime. We're going to be doing them both together so that we can care for our temples and our minds one video at a time. Make sure you tap that bell to be notified right after you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the tea. You feel me? By the way, I sell tea. Link in description below. Okay, so as you guys can see, I am wearing some medium-sized box braids right now, and in this video, I am going to show you a beginner-friendly tutorial on how I achieve this look. And the inspiration for this video is the story about how learning how to braid hair changed my life. I do braid hair, and I've actually been braiding hair for money for over 17 years now. I learned at a really young age, and shortly after that, I learned how to monetize it, and eventually I was able to walk away from my full-time job because of my ability to braid hair, not to mention help pay for cars, a wedding, a honeymoon, a house, a baby, so many things, okay? And I wanna really walk you guys through what that looked like for me, okay? Let's get started. So I am using a few packs of this Easy Braid pre-stretch hair from Innocence Luxury Premium Hair, which is such a blessing because back in the day when I started braiding hair, we didn't have all this pre-stretch stuff, okay? So the whole game has changed and things have gotten a lot easier. This is my little setup, you know what I'm saying? I got this rack right here. This is actually a thread rack that you can get from Walmart if you don't already know. All of these items will be listed in the description below. During this first piece, I'm just gonna talk to you guys a little bit while I prep my hair. I am putting a little bit of this Wild Growth hair oil in my hair. The next thing that we're gonna do to prep the hair is actually part it. I usually like to start braiding my hair in the back. One of the things that helped me a lot was learning how to do hair on myself. Almost every style that I know how to do right now for other people, I taught myself how to do on my own head. That way I could make as many of the mistakes, you know, as I could before getting to someone else's head. I highly recommend that you use both mirrors in the bathroom. And so what I would typically do is literally just like scoot this open and then just start from one side to the other. But depending on where I'm at in the head, then it's super helpful to just have a handheld mirror on deck, something like this, any type of mirror where you can just go like this and you can literally see what's going on behind you. The challenge with this is that it limits you because you only have one hand left to work with. So I would just kind of like section the hair that I think needs to get out the way and just clip it up kind of loosely. That way if I need to pull from it, I can hold with one hand, you know, and then just stand here and just try to get that part as straight as I can. Put the mirror down, move it out the way. Look, you know, that's pretty much the section of hair that I want in the back. So then I will go through, same thing, and then just section out the little section that I want. So I'm actually gonna do this and do quite a few like sections, and then I will be back. Okay, so we're gonna grab the hair and we're gonna hold the hair in between our fingers like this. And the whole objective is to wrap this hair around this strand of hair that's right here. I'm gonna show you two different ways you can achieve this. Me personally, I prefer the second method for different parts of my hair and the first method for other parts of my hair. So you're gonna take the strand of hair and the goal is to wrap it around this middle piece. So as you can see, just naturally, the hair kind of fell between these two fingers right here so that I could free up my index and my thumb, because my index and my thumb are gonna be what go in to grab my hair, right? And so now I wanna wrap it around, and so then I'm taking the pointer finger on my right hand, going up underneath this middle section, and then using the pointer and the thumb simultaneously as they're holding this piece all the way to the right, I'm also grabbing the piece that's all the way to the left. And then I'm using my ring finger to just kind of like press down right there so it can hold it in place and it does not move, while I really quick let go and grab. Now we're gonna do the same exact thing, except we're taking the pointer and the thumb from the left hand, and we're using the pointer finger to go up underneath this middle piece, and on top of the piece all the way to the right, using the pointer and thumb simultaneously. While this hand is gripped on tight to this piece of hair, these two need to be somewhat free so that they can grab that piece right there. And again, you know, holding on tight so that I can just grab this real quick. And now I'm just going to continue that process, but here's where it shifts. As you can see, this piece of hair is much thinner than the other two pieces, right? So you want to grab this like you were already doing, but now you want to borrow hair. You're going to borrow hair from both sections at different times. So this first section, as you can see, like I have the skinny piece, this is my natural hair. I have that grip tight between my pointer and my thumb. You don't want to take half. You want to take about a third from this piece, and then you're going to take a third from the other piece, and then it's going to create an even amount distributed between all three strands, okay? So I'm taking about a third from here, and then I'm just pushing it down so I can slide it between the grip that I already have. You don't want to be doing too much letting go and grabbing again. That's where you mess up. You got to keep a strong grip. Keep it up against the head as much as you can without it being too much tension. So now we're going to continue on with the process, going up underneath and on top, and I'm going to keep on braiding until we get into a similar situation. One more time, one more time, one more time, and now we're over here again all the way to the left, and then I can take my left hand and just grab about a third from this section. I can feel, you're going to be able to feel the difference. I can feel that this is the piece that hasn't been borrowed from yet, by the way. So you don't even have to like keep count or keep track. You should be able to feel it. So now I'm grabbing that, and then I'm adding about a third of that to that piece, and then I'm just going to continue braiding. Right? So now we want to start the braid down process. Unfortunately, you can't just continue to hold the hair like this and braid it down, because you'll run out. Like your arms just can't do that. If your arms can't do that, let me know, because my arms can't do that. So at some point you have to bring it over your shoulder and you have to continue braiding it down. And this is where it kind of gets a little tricky, because you got to be able to braid in a different direction, right? Because you want to keep a strong grip on it. You don't want to be turning it around and doing too much different stuff to it. So I'm going to show you how I do this right here. As you can see, I'm holding onto it with my dominant hand, my right hand. Everything is in place. It's all separated, right? I can feel, based on where we're at, that it's time for this piece to come over this piece. So I'm grabbing them in between my index, and I'm just gonna turn it around. And when I turn it around, I need to grab that middle piece and then just grip this back in. So I'm just holding onto it tightly. And then now with these two, I'm now gonna shift places and then use my middle finger on this hand to just grab that middle piece. So in a sense, we're just trading places. Everybody's hands do this a little bit differently. So you just have to figure out your groove, but you're just trading places. So now that it's long enough, I can actually flip it over and try to like use my thumb and index on this hand to just hold tight to it so it doesn't unravel too much when I flip it over. Then I'm going to resituate the pieces, grab them, and now in order for me to continue on in a way that this is going to stay together, I have to braid like this now. And so again, I'm just trading places with the strands, but now I'm doing like the overhand method. I guess you would say the last method was the underhand method. So for me, the overhand method of braiding is much easier. This is where I can begin to move really, really quickly and just go down and down and down, you know? And the only variation to this that you will need to make is, as you can see, the lower we get, the more we start to realize the difference in size. You see how these two pieces are a little bit smaller than this piece? That will happen sometimes. It won't make a great big difference when you're up here. As you can see, it looks like pretty even, but down here it is going to begin to make a difference. So when I can begin to feel this in between my fingers, then I'll just borrow. Again, taking a little bit of hair from the piece that has more and just bringing it into that center piece, moving it over, and then holding on, and I'm still going to take a little bit from that bigger piece and move it all the way over to the leftmost piece, and then we're just continuing to braid. And so borrowing hair is so essential. Borrowing hair a lot of times makes the difference, you know, between neat braids and lumpy braids, because a lot of times people will forget to borrow hair and even things out, and that's when the braids look lumpy. Now granted, this braid might look a little bit lumpy, but that's because I'm doing it on myself as well as trying to do it on camera instructionally. But I'll show you guys pictures of other times that I've done my hair, and you'll see by the end of this style that for the most part it's going to be really neat and flat. That is the goal. And if you're trying to do this in a way where you can get really good yourself, you can build your Instagram page, have all type of cute pictures doing your own hair, as well as learn to do other people's hair, then you want to go for neatness over everything. Quality over quantity. I promise you it will pay you big. So now once I get to the end of the braid, put it in between my lips. So this is the end of that braid. I can feel that it's not like super perfect, but we are gonna go again. So I'm gonna do the second method on a piece of hair that's a little bit higher up, just so that you can have a better visual. So it's very similar, except I'm going to split the hair at the root. And I actually have a whole video talking about this when you want to learn how to do this on someone else's head, but as you're learning to do it on your own head, then follow along with these instructions. So very similar to the first way, we're grabbing this piece in between both hands with a firm grip, and then we're going to go ahead and grab this center piece. But rather than dipping this index finger from my right hand all the way up underneath so that I can grab it like this, I'm actually going to go in and I'm going to do what I call splitting at the root. So I'm taking this same situation, and instead I'm going to take this index finger and I'm going to split it right in between the center of that piece of hair. And so now what just happened was I split my hair in the middle. I split it in half off top. And now I'm going to go in with the hair that has been added to the left side. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that hair, about a third of it, just as before, and I'm going to attach it to the piece with my hair, and then we're just going to begin braiding. In my opinion, this creates for a more strong connection of the braid at the root. And once I get back around to the left side, and now I'm dealing with this piece of hair that has not been split yet, now I'm just going to borrow a little bit of this hair and add it to the centermost piece, which is currently the piece that has my hair attached to it. And now I'm just going to continue to braid. Now I can feel in this particular scenario that I must not have done an even split with my hair in the beginning. So I'm just going to take a little bit of my hair from this left side and just dip it into. And this is what it's all about, you guys, is understanding when and where to borrow hair when adding extensions to your head. So as you can see, this braid looks a little bit different than this braid. Not to mention this braid, I was connecting a large amount of hair to a very small amount of my own hair, and sometimes that creates a little funkiness at the root. It's a little bit easier to do it on someone else than your own head. But in this situation, I feel like it's a smoother transition, and I believe that that's because I separated at the root. Okay, so now I'm going to continue adding braids to my head, and I'm just going to like braid them down halfway. And so then on one side of the screen, you're going to see me adding the extensions to my hair. On the other side, you're going to see me braiding it down. And while I'm braiding it down, then I will proceed with the conversation so I can tell you guys all about how I got started braiding hair, how it changed my life, and how it can change your life if you take it serious. All right, so basically when I was 8 years old, I started to braid hair, like I said, out of a need. I actually grew up really poor. My family was really poor. I didn't really understand the meaning of poverty back then, but I did know that I didn't have money and I wanted to have money in my pocket, and my sister and my mom was making money braiding people's hair. So I was like, man, I really want to learn, and they wouldn't let me help ever or earn any type of money because I didn't know what I was doing. So like I said, one day after school, I just stood in the mirror in the bathroom for a long time, however long it took, until I figured out how to complete a French braid in my hair. Now I had already known how to put like a braids in a doll's head, right? You know what I'm saying? But learning how to French braid was a big deal for me because what they were doing was French braiding people's hair. I think that was back in the 90s. You know, a lot of people were getting like French braids and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And dookie braids. And so I learned how to do that. And then shortly after, one of my aunts started letting me braid her hair. And when I talk about braiding her hair, she started letting me braid her hair and adding hair to the French braids. I remember the first time I did her hair, she had me add like some blonde hair to her head, and I remember it was like center part down the middle and like cornrows going this way, cornrows going that way, and I don't really know where they ended. But I just remember it was effed up. Like I remember looking at that style back then and thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so ugly. I was so embarrassed. I almost wanted to cry because I was trying so hard to get it right. And you know how like now we do feed-in cornrows, but if you from back in the day, you know, we just added the hair. Like instead of doing feed-in braids, I'm just adding to the hair and so you can see the knot. So that's how it was. So my knots was all sloppy. One was big, one was small. It was horrible. horrible, y'all. But my aunt, she just gave me all the praise. She's like, no, don't be upset, Niecy. These are beautiful. Thank you so much for doing my hair. She actually wore the hairstyle for like a week, y'all. Shout out to Auntie Emma, you know, because she used to look out. So when I was like 12 years old is the first time I was ever paid to do someone's hair. Now, I think my aunt might have given me like $5 or something, but that wasn't like a paid client, you know, that was like family, looking out for family. So yeah, it wasn't until then, it was my friend Nico. His mom was like, I'll pay you to braid his hair. And y'all, she paid me $30. Her name is Rita. Rita, shout out to you if you're watching this video. I love you. Good looking out on all the support. Rita hooked me up, y'all. Not only did she pay me $30, which was like balling status for me at the time. I was like 12, like I said. But I also felt like it dignified me, like as a braider, like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And mind you, the whole purpose of me learning how to braid at like 8 years old was because I wanted to start making money. So making a couple dollars here and there from the family, that was cool, but I wanted to get to the coin, you know what I'm saying? So at this time I was already working as well. I was selling candy, and I'm gonna do a whole other video on that, like how I started my first job at age 12 and started being able to make like $100 in a day. That's a whole nother video. But yeah, I was already selling candy after school and on the weekends sometimes, but it just didn't always, like, there were good days and bad days. And so doing hair was a great side hustle for me because, like I said, my family was poor, so we kind of had to all figure out how to like bring a little bit of money in. And so Rita not only paid me that $30, but she told one of her really good friends about me who owned a salon in the neighboring city. And Rita knew my struggle, like, because the reason why I was at her house all the time is because during that time period in my life, my mom was going through a lot of stuff. And so she kind of like lost us. Like, we were all, my mom got 7 kids. We was all living like in different places with different people. And so Rita knew my struggle. She knew I needed some money. So she told her salon friend and just asked her if I could just come and just help out as a braider. And so that's what I was going to tell you guys is, like, I mean, they're starting to crack down a little bit more nowadays because technically speaking, if you're not licensed, you're not supposed to ever even touch a head in a salon. But a lot of salons will allow braiders. Like, if you're not working with chemicals or heat and all you're doing is just braiding someone's hair, a lot of salons will allow braiders to work in their salon without license, especially if the salon owner is there and they have their license. So just keep that in mind. So this salon owner, she met with me, and at that time, I used to ride the bus everywhere. So, by the way, I want to point this out. My hair is coming out of this braid, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding product now. I didn't mention that before, but, you know, add product wherever you see fit. So this salon owner, if I remember correctly, her name was Brenda, and she had a salon, like I said, in the neighboring city. She let me come and meet with her, and at that time, I was riding a bus everywhere because, you know, everything that was going on in my life. And I kind of knew the city bus schedule by like the back of my hand, okay? So even though it was a whole city away, which is like, that's a mission for a bus rider, I figured out the routes and I took my little butt down to her salon, met with her, and my sister had come with me too, and we both met with her, and she loved us, and she said, like, you know, you guys can come work here. I think I may have just turned 14 because it was the summer right before I started high school. And so I really needed money because around this time I quit selling candy. I had started selling candy at 12 years old, and all throughout like middle school I was doing it, but I used to have all these ambitions and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna quit because I want to go off and be a singer. I was doing all kind of other stuff. We have so many videos where I can catch y'all up on, but I was doing all kind of other stuff trying to pursue my singer-songwriter career. And so I told like the guy who I sold candy for, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to sell candy anymore. I'm gonna go off and do this. But I needed money because at that same time, you know, during the summer of right before I started high school, my mom had like officially like relapsed on drugs and stuff, and so I was really out for the count. Like, my friends were letting me stay with them temporarily, and I just kind of had to figure something out. So I had to have money for school clothes and school supplies. My sister was in the same situation, but we were just living with different people. So we would like take the bus and meet up at the salon and just do hair. I think she was the one that was mostly doing individuals and I was doing French braids. So anyway, we had a really good team partnership. On the days when we didn't have clients, we would just like help clean up the shop and stuff like that. And I was so proud of myself, y'all, because I made however much money I made. I think I made like $300 over the summer, which was a lot of money at the time. We were probably charging like $50 for a whole head of braids, you know? And so And then we would be like splitting. We still had to split the money. Like we couldn't keep the whole thing because we was working in this lady's shop. So, you know, she had to get a cut too. But I was proud of myself because at the end of summer I had like $300, maybe $400, I don't know. But whatever it was enough for me to go school shopping. And I remember my little bougie self went down to the Carousel Mall in San Bernardino, California. And I went to the little shops that had like the gear, like, you know, like whatever was out at the time. I think baby fat and I don't know. I don't even think, no, not apple bottom. I don't think, whoever was out at that time, what was that? I don't know. I was 14. I'm 31 right now. So y'all do the math, whatever year that was. So, you know, I spent my little money, got my clothes. And then it was a blessing too, because one of the clients who was there, she knew our situation. And so she went and bought a whole bunch of school supplies from Walmart for me and my sister. And that just was like so sweet to me, because I didn't have to buy school supplies. So once I started going to school again, then I just was back to just doing hair on the side whenever I could. You know, I wasn't really going to the salon much anymore because there was like a few things that had transpired. I don't even remember, but there were a few reasons why we just couldn't go back there anymore after a while. And I eventually started to sell candy again. And this time around when I was selling candy, it was like kind of like a whole new position. It was just like, that's for a whole nother video. But the point is, because I started selling candy again, there were people who I was working on this candy crew with who needed their hair done, boys all the time. So we kind of got this little thing going where they would pay me like $5, $10, and I'll just do like some straight backs in their hair. And that was like our system. Like I was living a couple different places at the time. Whole other video, like I said. But during that time, I was still able to have this side hustle. And so it really came through, y'all. There would be times where I just needed a few dollars to go get something to eat. We didn't really have cell phones and stuff back then. I didn't have a car. I didn't need gas money or nothing like that. Pretty much for me, it was just like school clothes and food. And I took it real serious because when I was young, by the time I started getting a little bit of money in my pocket, I wanted to start buying the things I never had. Like, I didn't want to wear Payless shoes no more. I wanted to wear Nikes. I wanted to wear K-Swiss and, you know, whatever was out at the time. So that's what I started to do. And throughout high school, I just did hair on the side. I remember when I was like 16 is when I started taking clients again, like actual higher paying clients, like adults who would bring their children to the house that I was living at the time. And I would just legit have clientele, like client phone numbers in my cell phone, because I think I got a phone by then. And that was like a little system. Now, around this time, I started to realize, okay, this is not what I want to do with my life. But I was very grateful to have the side hustle because I was getting really tired of selling candy, okay? And so fast forward, I just never really stopped doing hair on the side of everything that I did. Like getting the money together to pay for a senior year. I didn't get to do everything. Like I didn't take senior pictures, but I really wanted to go to prom. I couldn't go to winter formal, you know, but I definitely wanted to graduate and walk across the stage. I wanted to go to grad night. And so a combination of selling candy and braiding hair, I would just combine the two, and I was able to make enough money to pay for like all my senior needs, you know, with the assistance of people who were in my life who was looking out for me as well. But that was like such a blessing. And then when I graduated high school, I started to get a lot more serious about like just wanting to put a career together. So I started to work on like getting my real estate license and learning how to be an entrepreneur and going out to all these self-help and business conferences. Like I said, a whole other video, because I've been involved in quite a few things and have learned a thing or two long before starting YouTube, you know, about just being an entrepreneur. And that's the road that I was heading down. But all the while, I always had clients whose hair I did on the side. It never really stopped. So that has a lot to do with why I say, you know, braiding hair, learning to braid hair, how it changed my life, because I could only imagine maybe there are other things that I could have thought to go do to make money if I couldn't have done this. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's trying to figure out a way to survive, whether it's $5, $10 to get you something to eat, you know what I'm saying? Put a few dollars in your gas tank, whatever. And so I never had to even consider doing anything illegal or putting myself in too much danger, you know what I'm saying, because I had this skill. Now, I always call myself taking a break from doing hair because I really started to get burnt out. My hands started to hurt, all of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I think it was around 2011 when I started to do hair again more regularly. And this was around the time where, you know, I was doing braids still. Braids is something that I got really good at. I would, at this point in time, I was an adult, so I would drive to my clients' houses when I could. I had a little bucket that I had bought, and it was, you know, putt-putting around the city, but we was making it places, you feel me? And so, you know, I would drive my little bucket to my clients' houses in the nearby cities or whatever. This is when I started getting paid more money, you know, like I had already, when I was like 16, 17, I had already moved up into like the $60, $80 range per head of like individuals. We were still doing individuals at that time. But then I remember I had a client who wanted to get these things called tree braids. And I was like, what are tree braids? And she had to teach me like what they were. And I was able to like look at pictures on the internet. The internet wasn't popping the way it is today, you know, back in like 2010 or whenever this was, you know, but I saw the pictures, she explained it to me, and a combined effort, I figured out how to do these tree braids. And so that was like some combination of doing like micro individual / tree braid things. And I remember I started doing that, and that's, I think, was the first client that I charged like $150. But prior to that, I had never charged anything near that much, you know. And so I started to realize my worth, you know. I started to realize if somebody will pay me $150 and give me gas money, feed me while I'm at their house, you know, the only risk I'm really taking is going to people's houses. Now, I will say that is a risk. If this is something that you're getting into, you know, and you want to start out doing it how I was doing it, you are taking a risk inviting people into your home and you go into their home. And it was a risk that I just had to take. We all got to take some sort of risk. And I was like, I got to make money somehow. So I was doing it. I would do my best to, you know, sort out the clients, make sure that they were referred by somebody who I trusted, go to their house. If it looked fishy or funny, you know, I would just make an excuse not to go in or whatever, you know. And most of the time, by the grace of God, I was fine. You know, I think I only had like 2 bad experiences, and they weren't even that bad. So another thing that I will say is that I pray over everything. Okay. So whenever I felt scared, nervous, anything, I'm telling you, in my car praying to God that he would protect me and that he would stop me in my tracks if it was going to be a dangerous situation. And so I guess I just never really worried too much. But yeah, so I started to get clients that were willing to pay me more money. Especially me doing like the micro individual braids and stuff like that. I just remember feeling like, man, I just do not want to do this anymore. This is draining me to be driving to all of these clients' houses and putting my life at risk, falling asleep. I was just like, I can't keep doing this. This was like my side hustle. I did have jobs. You know, I was, like I said, I was just trying to do internships. I had just graduated college. I was, you know, just trying to figure my life out. And it was really still my side hustle, but it was a major part of my income in order for me to live the lifestyle that I wanted to live. So I was like, I got to figure something else out. And that's when I started to take YouTube a lot more serious. And the reason why I started to do hair tutorials on YouTube, I mean, there was a couple of things. I'll talk about it in another video because I did end up getting a job that was really far away from my house. It was a better paying job. Long story short, it burnt me out to the fullest extent. And I realized that I just want to work for myself completely. I don't want to be, because I was still doing hair. Like I was driving super far to get to this job, working 40 hours a week, sometimes more, driving super far to get home, still trying to pursue a career in the entertainment industry and doing hair on the side. I was getting like 3 hours of sleep at night. I was dead, right? And that's when I was like, I got to figure out a way to just like work for myself. And so that's a whole other video as well. I want to talk to you guys in detail about what that process was like. But basically it got me to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to doing hair, but I'm going to do hair on my terms. I'm not going to be driving to a whole bunch of clients. I'm going to create a situation where most of my clients can come to me. Now, I still would go to some clients, but I wasn't going as far. I started to be a lot more strict with my pricing, a lot more organized. This is the service that I'm offering. I taught myself how to do weaves at the time, and I just went through that whole process of learning how to cornrow into beehives and sew in weaves, and that was a whole process, and it did take me a while. Again, I learned how to do it on myself first and then kind of let things unfold from there. But you know, I just continued to build on that and build on that. And as I was doing it, YouTube was starting to really pick up. Now, I had already started doing YouTube back in like 2010. That's a whole other video. There's so many videos. Back in 2010. But at this time, I had kind of taken like a little break from doing YouTube because I was trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. And so I think it was around the 2014-15 time where I was like, I had been in the groove of my new situation, doing most of my clients at home. I was like in the living room, kitchen area, had my little setup. And I was like, you know what? Let me do a video showing people how to do these weaves properly, because it took me a long time and it was very challenging to figure out how to do it. So I wanted to teach it. And then I started to realize that people really appreciated learning from me. And that's when I realized I should start doing more hair tutorials on YouTube. And by me picking up the activity of doing braids and weaves and videos like that on YouTube, I was already making money working for myself, not working a job anymore, on my own terms, in my home. So, I wasn't worried about having a license or nothing. But then I started to be able to make money on the internet. And I wasn't making a whole lot of money on YouTube, but just another stream of income. It was just a blessing. It was an eye-opener for me. And all in all, I've just continued along this path, even still to this day. Now I own a home with my husband, and we have a whole area in my garage set up to where if I want to take a client, I can. I don't do nearly as much hair today as I once did, but I do have the opportunity available to me. And I will say this, one thing that I left out, this is probably actually like one of the biggest things, I would say, where like the culmination of events that really just proves to me the value of learning a skill like this. Okay, I did end up going to cosmetology school, but I didn't finish. While I was in school, I realized this ain't what I want to do. I'm not about to like get a whole nother like certificate and pay out this money to learn this that I know I don't really want to do with my life. I had already graduated with a business degree from college, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not trying to like go further in debt for something that I'm not really willing to commit to. But because I had gone to cosmetology school for a little while, I learned a whole lot about like sanitation and like the book work, about what they teach you in cosmetology school. And so I felt so much more empowered to actually be able to work in a salon again. And I kind of needed to work in a salon because I was in a situation where I was like living with some friends and they wasn't trying to let me do hair at their house. So I was really blessed to meet someone who was not worried about having a braider in her salon, because things started to tighten up, around this time. I think this was like the 2016 time period. Things started to tighten up. So a lot of cosmetologists were scared to have people who were unlicensed in their salon, but this one in particular did not mind. I'm not going to put her name out there, but she did not mind. So I was actually able, while I was living with my friends, my husband and I were saving up money so we could buy our home. It was a unique situation and we needed to make a lot of money very quickly to make the most of the situation. So when I tell y'all, I went to this salon, and this is when I got busy. I had already had an Instagram account that I started to post pictures about my work, which is why I was able to generate, a clientele. I left that out too. I'm so sorry, y'all. Around like the 2014-15 time, when I started to do hair more regularly, I created an Instagram account, started to post a whole bunch of pictures, my price lists, everything. And I had a couple of viral videos and viral pictures and all kind of stuff going on. I've deleted all that stuff since then, rebranded, but I had it going on. I understood enough about how to navigate these apps to where I was able to get clientele. And if you guys want, I guess, the details about that, I can give it to you real quick. Like, it's so different today than it used to be, but basically like provide value, post really good pictures, insightful information, teaching information, videos showing people how you're doing things. That's basically what I started to do, but like back then. And then I created like a second phone number that allowed people to call me. It would go to my phone, but it wasn't my actual number. So that was the phone number I put out there. I created business cards. I went around to local salons, beauty supplies, and nail shops with a paper printout and my phone number at the bottom that you could just rip off, my name, and a little brief intro about like my services. And I would leave my business cards and these printouts there, and if they gave me permission, and I legit started having people call me. By those people calling me, it led to referrals after referrals after referrals. So it was a little hustle. I had to, you had to put yourself out there. You can't be scared to put yourself out there and have people tell you no. But I learned a lot about that at a very young age, because at a very young age I had to start figuring out how to make money. So the word no was not so frightening to me. So yeah, I was doing all that like around the 2013-14 time, when I knew I wanted to go full time with this. But anyway, so I had already had like a steady clientele. And so being able to go to this salon and work was a blessing, because it was one of these salon suites that didn't get a lot of foot traffic. So the only way that I was going to prosper was to have a clientele. So thank God I did. I had that Instagram account going. And because I had a space now where I wasn't nearly as timid as I was when I was in my apartment having people come over, I knew I could have anybody come back to back to back. I could work from 8 a.m. to midnight if I want to, and not have to worry about disturbing my husband or my friends or anybody. And I was trying to get busy and get this mortgage down payment money up. I got busy. I made more money in that time period doing hair than I had ever made before. Even though I was paying booth rent, I still was taking home more money than I had ever made before. I worked harder than I had ever worked before consistently, but it worked out. And I did that for like 6 or 7 months as I was saving up to get this house. And that's what I mean when I say that learning how to braid changed my life. It's always been something that I've never really been in love with, but I loved the opportunity it provided. I loved the fact that I was able to develop year after year after year. And even though I started out making a little bit of money, I was able to grow, make more money, work for myself, set my own terms, make friends. I have so many friends today that I met through doing their hair that are genuinely my friends today, be able to teach other people like you guys, you know what I'm saying? And basically what I'm trying to say is learning how to do hair has afforded me the flexibility to always be able to make that extra money if I want to take a trip somewhere, if I want to like buy something nice, getting married. I remember when we were paying for our wedding, my husband and I, when I tell y'all, I was taking so many. I was still doing hair at my house, by the way, at this time, or at our apartment, because this was before we were buying our house. That was like the first time that I really went in on taking clients, and I remember like my hands was hurting because I wasn't doing as many weaves at this time. I was mostly still doing braids, and this is when box braids came about. This was the year of 2014-15. Because I got married in 2015. So actually mostly 2015, box braids had gotten really popular. And so I had to start doing those all the time. And I was charging like $100 per head to do a full head of like medium-sized box braids. And I remember I was taking so many clients. I remember that at the end of a long day of braiding, I would sit on my phone for an hour to 2 hours every day, just responding to comments, between comments on Instagram, Facebook, and people texting my phone, trying to organize my schedule. I had like this little tiny little planner, trying to organize, and then people saying, oh, can I move my appointment around? Can I do this? It was a lot. I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, but I really wanted to have a nice wedding, and I wanted to do my part, So, it was a lot of anxiety, but I did it. I mean, literally knowing how to braid hair has helped me to achieve almost every major progression in my life. Even when I was like starting little entrepreneurial ventures, having the seed money, whether it was just a couple $100s to just buy some product to get started selling it or whatever it was, it afforded me opportunities that I otherwise would have had to work a job for. Maybe I wouldn't have had the flexibility, or maybe I just wouldn't have even done it, period. A lot of times I feel like we feel so limited because we don't have skills. And so that's why I just really want to encourage you, if you're someone who's thinking about, doing hair in any capacity, if it's because you love it, then go for it. And if it's because you just need it, go for it and just be the best that you can be. Okay, people will pay you. And we can do a whole other video on that if you want to talk about like how to actually go about charging people, what should you charge and all that stuff. People will pay you when you provide value. The value you provide is not just in how their hair turns out. That's 95% of it, don't get me wrong. But a portion of it is who you are. A lot of my clients came to me and stayed with me because I was a nice person. I was genuine. I was welcoming and patient and kind when they came into my home. I would offer them snacks, just good conversation. I wasn't ratchet and rude. Like, some hairstylists be like rude. They could slay your hair, but you don't even really want to be in their presence. They smoking weed in the shop, drinking, cussing, got niggas running in and out, and it's a whole situation. And while that vibe is cool for a lot of people, it's not cool for everybody. I actually realized that majority of my clientele ended up being like conservative women, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I wasn't really attracting a lot of the young crowd because maybe just my vibe was just a little different, you know what I'm saying? But everybody has their thing. If I would have looked at what everyone else was doing in the hair game before I looked into myself and looked at my own skill set, I probably wouldn't have gone forward because I probably would have counted myself out. I probably would have thought, oh, well, I don't have a salon. I don't have a license. I don't know how to slay every style which way and do all these hair color and hair treatments. All I know how to do is braid. I probably would have counted myself out, but I didn't have that type of distraction back in 2011, 12, 13. The social media wasn't what it is today. Today, you guys unfortunately have a lot of distractions. You have a lot of discouraging things that you're looking at. You might be looking at my video and be discouraged because you don't know how to do what I'm doing, not realizing I've been doing this. I'm 31 years old and I have legit been braiding hair for money since I was 13. I've been figuring this thing out. So give yourself a little bit of time and a little bit of grace. Now, I have talked your ears off. I am going to go ahead and fast forward this, speed it up so that you can see the finished product. I want you guys to ask me any questions that you have in the comments below. We have so many videos coming up, videos similar to this where we're going to be doing a lot of conversational topics, story times / tutorials or reviews or whatever, you know? So let me know some of your requests. Thank you so much for listening to me. And this is the final look. I do not feel like laying my baby hairs because I'm about to go to bed, y'all. It's really not that deep. But I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and conversation. And I hope you learned something. Make sure you come back next week for another video just like this. And remember, in the meantime, to stay happy, stay healthy, be you, love you, and make it all beautiful. You'll see me on the next video.